your mitzvot. Frustrate the designs of those who plot evil against me. Make nothing of their schemes. Do so because of your compassion, your power, your holiness, and your Torah. Answer my prayer for the deliverance of your people. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. He who brings peace to his universe will bring peace to us and to all the people of Israel. Amen. Ose shalom bimrumav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imiru, amen. Ose shalom bimrumav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imiru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 V'imiru, amen. Please turn to page 392 and rise for the Kaddish Shalom. Yikadav yikadash shemei rabah, v'yamad yivrach chirote, v'yamlich machate, b'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayedecho be'Yisrael, v'agatz rotahon v'vatahon, d'cho Yisrael katam avuchon, d'vishmaya v'yimiru. Yehesh ramah rabah min shemaya, v'chayim alinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimiru. Oseh shalom bimrumav, hu yaseh shalom, alinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimiru. Amen. Okay, we'll have the Torah service. Greg, Gabby, Rishon, and Heather, do you want to be Gabby Sheni? And Leslie, do you want to carry the Torah?
More than anything in the whole world.
Are you going to say something about Torah now or later? Later.
Do you have a preference? I don't care.
Do we have to get ready right now? Or
How about if I say it now? That way I won't have to say it later.
Okay.
I'll stumble through it now, and then that way I won't be.
It's up to you.
You'll have forgotten that I stumbled through it later. See, it's perfect. All right, so.
It's thought of something because you mentioned Uri Gelman. So
Oh, okay. Well then.
afterwards, after you're done.
When you're done. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the second to last chapter of Leviticus. Actually, sometimes it is the last because in the triennial cycle, at least 2 years out of 3, it's combined with the next one, which is Bechukotai. So if you were to look at the Luach, you look at this and you'd say, how come we're not doing like the last third of Behar? Instead, we seem to be doing the first part of it. Well, the reason is because of this sometimes combination with Bechukotai and sometimes not. So in this year, we're not doing it with Bechukotai, therefore we actually read from the beginning of the chapter. So anyway, this has to do with the Jubilee and the sabbaticals and letting the land rest, and then the whole thing about in the 49th year or 50th year, sometimes there's an argument about whether it's in the 49th or the 50th year, but in any way, there's this move to return land to its owners. And so what does that really mean? So sometimes this is thought of as kind of a cancellation of debts, but in reality it's not at all a cancellation of debts because there was no debt to begin with. The way the Jubilee sort of system was supposed to work is if you're an Israelite, if you're a foreigner, you're out of luck. But if you're an Israelite, you own land, and you fall on hard times, you are able to basically lease your land to someone else who's willing to pay you a lump sum of money, or goods, or whatever, usually money, silver, who knows what, in the amount proportional to how many years till the Jubilee. So if there are 10 years to the Jubilee, you'll get 10 times the yearly amount. If it's 20 years, you'll get 20, and so forth. The idea being that you get this lump sum, and then when the Jubilee occurs, you get your land back. It's more like leasing your land to someone for a certain amount of time. The person who leases the land gets to work the land and keep all the crops and profit from the land, right? They've paid you this. So it's not at all a cancellation of debt. If you go into debt for something else, that's your problem. It only applied to agricultural or unwalled towns and property. It did not apply to houses in the city. If you sold your house in a walled city, you don't get it back at the Jubilee. It's very specific in there. It was basically a way of keeping the land sort of in the family, or within families, and without allowing people, in theory, to accumulate large amounts of land, definitely, basically accruing wealth and power at the expense of everyone else, well, which is generally how it goes in societies, right? Eventually, when the society progresses enough, people start accumulating land, and you end up with aristocracies like, Russian aristocracies owning all the land, or English aristocracies owning all the land, this kind of thing, and the peasants just sit there starving. So the idea was to sort of keep it from getting to that state. It's not to say that it was some kind of socialist or communist system where, people's land was taken away and redistributed to others. That's not at all how the intent. You didn't get more than you were entitled to. You got what you were supposed to have. It was basically a kind of a method to try to prevent so much income inequality, which as we all know is sort of a problem these days. In fact, the Torah is very explicit about private property being the basis of economic independence, and ideal societies envisioned by the prophets are ones in which each person is able to sit underneath their own vine and fig tree. So you can't take this part of Leviticus and say it's an argument against property ownership or that kind of thing. It's not at all for that. It's an argument against accumulating too much at the expense of others. In fact, even in the scholarly area, if you think of it not just property, but in the scholarly area, the rabbis and so forth would say that jealousy among scholars increases wisdom. You want competition. You want an economic system or even a scholarly system where people are competing and using their talents and whatnot. It's not at all some kind of egalitarian thing. In fact, it says poverty is considered a kind of death and worse than 50 plagues, right? So if you lose all your land and everything, you're definitely, especially in an agricultural society, you're pretty much out of luck. You have no choice but to become some kind of indentured servant or slave or whatnot. So that's what we considered a very, very bad thing. So the Jubilee was kind of supposed to rectify that. Now, whether or not the Jubilee ever was put into effect, if it ever happened, it's not really historically clear whether that was true, because it also says in the Torah that it should only happen if all the people of Israel are actually in Israel. So immediately after the Exodus, when all the tribes were in the land of Israel for a while, it was, it could have, in theory anyway, been put into effect. But once the Assyrians came down and took away the 10 tribes from the north, it was like, okay, well, the people of Israel are no longer in Israel, so it doesn't apply anymore. So it's really hard to say whether it was ever followed in practice, especially since the land of Israel became a monarchy. And anytime you go into a monarchy, as the prophets say, you've just decided to voluntarily become a slave. So monarchies tend not to like property redistribution. They like to hold it for themselves and dole it out to their favorites. So it's unlikely the Jubilee, and at least in the two kingdoms or the 1 and 2 kingdom scenario, ever was put into effect. But even it's a good thing to think of in theory to guide us in sort of how kind of an economic system we want to live in, right? We don't want just unfettered capitalism. We want something that has some kind of a moral framework. Because as you know, if you end up with systems that are too wildly unbalanced, we end up with French revolutions and Russian revolutions and unpleasant things like that, which usually end up not benefiting anybody in the short term and only a few people in the long. So, and by the way, that the Liberty Bell, if you ever have seen the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, it has inscribed on it a verse from Leviticus, except that it's mistranslated. So if you read on it, it says, proclaim liberty throughout the land, et cetera, but really what it says in the Torah is proclaim release throughout the land, in reference to the Jubilee. Release, undoing of the leases, not liberty. It's just the King James Bible translated it its own way. And so it suited the times, I suppose, but not really actual intent of the phrase. So, Greg, what do you want?
Well, Harry, have you heard of Murray Galvan? I don't know who Murray is. He'll tell us about Murray Galvan. He died recently. He was Jewish, right?
Certainly his parents were. I have no idea whether he was probably completely irreligious, I suspect.
But he invented the eightfold way. Okay, the eightfold way is symmetry in physics. And what that has to do with this parsha. This parsha begins with the sevenfold way, okay? Because there's all sorts of reference to symmetry if you read this parsha. 7 this, 7 this, 7 times 9, sort of interesting.
Mhm.
It's a common theme. I just found out that Murray
passed away?
He passed away recently.
Oh.
He's a
This is
physicist.
he looked at a molecule and was able to see the universe.
He did. He was able to. He looked at even smaller molecules.
Quarks and things. And quarks,
Yeah, he looked at the center, the neutrons and protons, which make up the nucleus of
I was
atoms.
just reading about him.
Yeah,
I was
and
just-
so he figured out a symmetry, and he predicted things just based on the beauty of nature, which is rare.
Apparently, he always sort of regretted calling it the Eightfold Way because people kept conflating it with some kind of Buddhist thing that he just appropriated the term. It seemed appropriate, but he had no notion of it being related or associated with Buddhism or anything like that.
So I heard about him, and then this Torah parsha in the beginning, it's all very symbolic with 7 this, 7, 7, 7. If you read
Yeah.
it, it's very symmetrical. So
All right.
That's it.
What page does it start on today?
Herman Woke, he died too.
Yeah, Herman Wouk died.
I don't know. He brings me all the bad
Chapter
news
25,
every
verse 1. Page 738.
week. Okay, let's start.
All right, so got our ducks in a row here.
Thank you. Yeah, you got Mr. Ford.
We should have gathered.
Well, I thought you chanted something first.
Yes, I'm going to.
Hey, come on.
Ein kamocha v'alhim Adonai v'ein kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol amim umemshatecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim heitiv avirtzonecha et Zion Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Ki v'cha levad batachnu Melech el ram v'nisa Adon olam Vayehi v'inso Aharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai V'yafutzu oivecha V'yanusu misanecha mipanecha Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Udvar Adonai miYerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato Be'anarachit V'lishmei Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Anai Martush V'chan Be'anarachit Be'anarachit V'lishmei Kadisha Kadisha Yakira
Anai martush bechan, Behera avakadama, V'tiktach libi v'oraita, V'tashlim misholin delibi, V'libadecho amach Yisrael, V'tavu chayin v'lishlam.